morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from wherever you're tuning in. My name is Katharina Stechl. I am the program manager of the Roundtable Human Rights in Tourism. As always, in the spirit of this webinar series on tourism and human rights, I am your moderator for today's session. It is 2022, and today we are proud to present the 7th webinar in the series. And I highly recommend you to check out the past webinars available on our website and on our YouTube channel, as we have already tackled several high crucial human rights topics. And as we enter the new year, I think it's a very good time to once say thank you. Thank you to our members. Thank you to all of the dedicated speakers who have supported us. Thank you for everybody who's supporting us in the preparation and planning of these events. And especially a big thank you to your dear listeners who are taking the time to engage with this very important topic. Before I introduce our terrific speakers, let me spare a moment to introduce the Roundtable to those of you who are joining us for the first time. So the Roundtable is a multi-stakeholder initiative. We currently have 33 members from 6 countries and from 5 interest groups. So these are travel associations, multipliers, civil society, certifiers, and of course, tourism businesses. Our membership is actually open to all tourism stakeholders who actually commit themselves to the Roundtable principles and sign the voluntary commitment and the declaration of their stakeholders. And actually any organization that can become a member that is interested in promoting sustainable tourism and human rights in tourism. We particularly invite small and medium-sized tour operators to join us. We actually see us as an open dialogue platform for the exchange of know-how and for mutual learning within the industry, and to provide information and guidance material and examples of good practice. And we are kind of a trustworthy network with different stakeholders. So we pull the strings together and we provide the platform in a non-competitive way to just work for the greater good and to support the tourism industry in a very demand-oriented way. That is actually our goal. And we are supported by GIZ on behalf of BMZ. And we are also mentioned in the National Action Plan for Business and Human Rights, which is actually the big topic at the moment. As you might know, the European Commission yesterday announced a draft of a due diligence act on European level. So this issue is going to become more and more important. And due diligence is actually the keyword to start in today's topic. So let me give you a little bit of a picture here. So in tourism, we have the great fortune and at the same time the great danger that we work in an industry that actually has a very positive image. People love to travel, get to know cultures, make new experiences, and to be in exchange. And of course, it is true how vital tourism is and what a positive impact it has. Because this much is clear. I mean, where there's light, there's also shadow. So, I mean, every tourism activity has an impact, especially on the people and the destinations they live in. And what we often experience at the Roundtable is that the negative effects of tourism on people are often not recognized or at least misjudged, and often also reduced to stereotypes. So often enough, I have heard people say stuff like, well, yeah, that's an exciting topic, but it actually is not relevant to me, or it doesn't affect me because I mainly operate in Spain. And I deliberately bring up a painful topic and frame it the way I do, the classic sex tourist in Asia. So that is what we often hear. And this is precisely this thinking what we want to break down today by looking at human rights on European doorstep in Italy. And when I chose the topic for today's webinar, I actually compared various statistics like travel arrivals and human rights indices. And when I compared them, Italy actually came out a little worse than, for example, Spain or France. And that is why, and more importantly, what can we do about that, and what can the travel industry do about it? And that's what we're talking about today with Sara Lorrai and Naomi Lindfield. I'll like to introduce both of them at the beginning of the session. So Sara Lorrai is the secretary of the trade union in Italy, in Sardinia. She lived actually in Germany for her whole youth before she then moved to Sardinia. And she studied economics in Calgary, and then she began to work for the trade union. And then we have Naomi Lindfield with us, who's the director of Skedaddle Italia, a specialist in cycling holidays, and she has over 22 years of experience in the sector and actually combines her passion for sustainable and responsible tourism with the outdoor travel industry. And she's not only running her business, but she's also a founding member of Active Italy, a network for responsible Italian tour operators in the outdoor sector. So we have two wonderful speakers with us. I'm delighted to have you here. And that's where I stop and hand over to Sara. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Okay, so can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm introduced also quick myself. Yes, I'm Sara Lorrai. I'm the secretary from the trade union Fisascat Cisl. We operate in all Olyastra. Olyastra is a small territory with only about 60,000 inhabitants. And we are exactly in Ogliastra, Sardinia, in the oriental center of Sardinia. We follow, as Fisascat, as trade union, we follow over 30 contracts, the contract of the territory and also the tourism contract. Perhaps some one of you know that we are famous here in Ogliastra for the elixir from the secret from the long life. In effect, 4 years ago, come different Korean scientists, but also different European scientists here to study this elixir from the secret from the long life. And this is one of the reasons because a lot of tourists come also here to visit our territory. The tourism is one of the most important sector here in Ogliastra. Over 2,000 workers work inside this sector. So imagine that with the pandemic 2 years ago, it was a very big disaster because we have here two problems. And I want to speak to you about these problems that we have here inside our territory. One problem is that when we have here a good summer season, when we can say good summer season, the worker work about 5-6 months in the summer because the summer here ends on the 15th October or in the end from the October. So the workers work about 5-6 months in the summer season. And after in the winter, they take for only 2 or 3 months the unemployment benefits. And so this is not really enough for a family because we don't have only a young generation inside the tourism sector. We have also a lot of couples, husband and wife. And so this is the only income that they have. And to take for only 2 months, the winter is long, and employment benefits is not really enough. So a lot of them decided to go outside in the winter to make the winter season. And they go to the North Italy, outside from Sardinia, to make the winter season and to earn something more. So the problem is here that we can do more for these workers because We have everything here. We don't have only beautiful sea. We have also beautiful mountains. We have in October perfect temperature. So our territory must do more to make this, the summer season longer and to give more feedback to these workers. But the problem is that we don't have a really good infrastructure here. So our political must do more to make this situation better also for these workers. Because how I said, with the pandemic, a lot of the workers in the tourism sector have also decided not to continue inside this sector. A lot of them, for example, the young generation, have decided to work in other sectors, for example, in the construction sector, or also of them have decided to open something self. And this was one of the big problem with the pandemic. This is one of the problem. Another problem is, and this is where I really want to catch your attention, is that we have workers. When I say that in the summer season, these workers work 5-6 months, they really work 5-6 months. They work 7 days to 7. They don't have 1 day to rest. And they work between 12 and 14 hours a day. The contract of the tourism says that they must rest for 1 day in the week. But the situation is that not really so, because they work really every day, 14 and 12 hours a day, and they earned only at month 800 or 900 euro at month. So I have seen last year come to me a boy, and I have saw a contract where he earned only 3 euro at hour. So now I want to ask here the guests, can we say or can we speak in this condition about contracts? Absolutely no. I say every time, these are not contracts, these are slaves contracts. Okay, and we cannot imagine that the people can work in this condition. Absolutely. And when you say, another problem is when you say to these people, we must do more for fight for your rights. The problem is that they don't do this because they have fear that it can be that the next summer season, the employer don't give them a work. And this is one of the big problem that we have. I, as a trade union, every year is the same problem. I say to these workers, we must do more. I go with the newspapers, but this is a problem that we really have here. And so this is one of the reasons, because a lot also of the young generation decided not to continue inside this sector and to do other works. And it's okay when we speak. We have last year a festival about the sustainable tourism. It's all okay, sustainable tourism is perfect, but I said sustainable tourism, you can have it when you have also a social justice. These are two words, two things that must work inside the same direction. You cannot imagine to have a responsible tourism when you don't have a social justice. Absolutely no. Because it's wonderful when the people or the tourism come inside the structure and make perfect holidays. But it's also important to know what happens inside these structures, inside these tourism structures. This is important to know it. And yes, this is one of the big problem that we have here. this is all what I want to say. I want to say also thank you to Katharina that she gives me this possibility to make part today of this meeting. And I hope it can be, why not, a possibility to make something better. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sara, for this very shocking picture that you actually painted, like on, as I said, on our doorsteps. I think this is something that you can barely imagine, having contracts of €3 per hour in a European country. This is very, very worrying. So I have like just one follow-up question for you, or actually, let's say 2 follow-up questions. So the first thing is like, what do you do as a trade union, like especially with this fear that you just mentioned? Like, how do you actually support workers, and what can you achieve when the fear and the pressure is so big and people are actually, yeah, really scared and forced into this, like what you can call modern slavery structures? So this would be my first question.
What we do as trade union, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What we can do. I say to all these workers when they come to me in the summer season and they show me our contract, that it's not you cannot this is not a real contract. We must do more. And we as Fisascat, as trade union, we are in the newspapers. Okay, we come outside in the newspapers and we make, the problem is this, what I say, when you say to this, we must go outside, we must do, we must speak with the employer, they have fear, they don't want to do this. They know that they are really the problem, okay, but it's impossible to do more.
Yeah.
I alone I can do nothing alone. I need the people, these workers with me. Alone, where can I go alone? It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, whenever we're tackling this big human rights issues, what we always see is that we need cooperation. We need a joint strength in order to tackle these issues. That is extremely important. Before I continue, we have 2 questions from the audience. So the first one is from Gisela, and it is, do you have problems with split shifts? So morning half shift and then a long break and then a late night shift. Is that an issue in Italy?
Yeah, they don't report. They work 14 hours. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 12, 14 hours. They don't have 1 hour to eat something, but very quick when you made this question. Yeah. They don't have time. Okay. The contract say you must report. You must stand for 1 day in the week. Okay, yeah. All the week, but they don't rest. Don't rest. 7 days to 7 they work. Okay.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So it's not really a problem of a split shift. It's more a problem of working constantly. Yes, and that is of course an even bigger issue. I see. Exactly. I see. So yeah, before we continue to Naomi, and I'm sure we have time at the end of the session to again answer 1 or 2 questions, my last question would be, in your opinion, what can the people who are listening to us today, so people from the travel industry, tour operators, travel associations, what is your recommendation? What can they do in order to prevent these very disturbing situation within workers in Italy?
Okay, what can they do? I think when the tour operator have the relationship with inside in one structure, it's important to know how is the situation for these workers, how the workers work inside this structure. This is important. Yeah. And I want to say another thing. I have here 2 weeks ago that this in the European Union is now a new right, okay, and a new right where this right must check this situation inside the structure. This is a new right. I have heard it 2 weeks ago. Okay, this is a one right from Macron.
Yeah, I mean, we also have human rights, and we way too often face the problem that like actually having a right and getting a right granted, like there is a big difference. You don't always get the right that you actually have by law. That is a huge problem, and that actually brings me for the moment to Naomi. So thank you very much for the moment, Sara. I'm sure we talk to you at the end of the session again, because as we have weak laws or no laws at the moment, it is even more important that travel companies have due diligence processes on their own, which they actually implement voluntarily. So, and that brings us to Naomi. Thank you so much for being here. I'll leave the floor for you to introduce yourself and your company and to show us how to act responsible.
Thank you, Katharina. So I've prepared a slideshow, if that's okay. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with everybody. So just give me a second to coordinate this. And let me see. Okay, so. Okay, can you all see the screen now? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
perfect.
great. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm really pleased and honored to be taking part in this webinar, and hope that what we talk about today can help the cause of human rights in tourism. Today I will be talking about my experience here in Italy, but also that of my friends Lisa and Gavino, who run a business here in Italy, also covering Olyastra, where Sara comes from, and an outdoor service provider. Okay, so just a little bit about who I am. So I run Skedaddle Italia, and we are DMC based in Sardinia, but we also run holidays, cycling and walking holidays all over Italy. We've been operating now for 22 years. I am part of Skedaddle, UK company-based cycling specialist, and with the directors, we share the same ethical approach to our business. We work primarily with English, French, and German-speaking clients who also partners. So we do primarily B2B. We work, for example, with members of this roundtable, such as Hauser and Rising Mitsinnen. I said I would mention that I was presenting also on behalf of Lisa and Gavino and Emma, the dog. They couldn't make it today. So they are an outdoor walking specialist in Sardinia. They work primarily with German-speaking clients, Lisa being born in Germany, but Sardinian at heart. They are very close. They have a very close and long-lasting partner relationship with Hauser Excursionen, also partner of this roundtable, and have developed holidays, walking holidays, and the Sardinian product for them for the last 15 years. Here we go. So what we would like to bring to this roundtable today is our experience, what has been for us our starting point, some practical examples of due diligence, some good practices for human rights. We will also talk about the challenges that can become opportunities and why it makes a business sense for us to respect human rights. What both Lisa and Gavino and I have in common in wanting to share with others our love for nature, exploration and cultures, and to leave a seed of new understanding through outer and inner exploration. What we have realized is what is in setting up our separate businesses for both of us, our starting point has been our core values and our mission. So we have been driven by a set of values that has become our business philosophy and has steered how we operate and practice our business and run our holidays. If I was to use a single word to describe what has been our driving force, I would use the word care. We care about our clients' experiences, but also we care about our stakeholders. So ours has been very much a value and purpose-based approach to our business. Connection is at the core of this. Because we care, connection is fundamental. Knowing and understanding who we work with, who our stakeholders are, for example, opens up to potential meeting needs from both sides. It's what Sara was saying. It's about getting to know who we work with, who are our partners throughout the value chain. So communication throughout the value chain is fundamental. So being aware and understanding what values we have and want to bring to our business is fundamental to have a clear mission. It's having a bright star that we always have, that we can always point towards. Having values such as responsibility, trust and loyalty, respect, and cultural awareness, understanding, means that every touch point in what we do, who we interact with, we can make choices that are value and mission driven. And these choices, value-based, are transmitted to customers through the experience they have during the holiday. So that is why at the holiday development stage, when we're putting together all those elements that make up a holiday, the product and the experience, here is where important choices can be made based on your business and core values. Here we can evaluate what impact our product has on the local communities and environment, such as, for example, the workers that are involved in that value chain. So these are some of the things that we do. We select the service providers that share similar values and we engage with them. We work with small restaurants, we work with small hotels. We try to understand that their businesses so that there is a mutual sustainable growth. And we also ensure, and this also enables us to ensure that the destination receives a good portion of the economic benefits from the total holiday expenditure. Both Lisa and I come from cross-cultural backgrounds. Mine is British because my parents are British, but I was born in Sardinia in Italy. Lisa's is German, a bit like Sara, transplanted here. We both know what it means to be seen different, but also we know how to be felt, how to feel included. Because of this background, we're both sensitive to the importance of cross-cultural awareness and understanding, which is a key ingredient to the value of respect. Choosing to help our clients experience and understand local traditions and values allows for personal growth and preserving and respecting fragile equilibriums of community and environment. We, as B&B businesses, it's important that the tour operators selling our experiences and holidays ensure that through the customer journey, from engaging with websites to speaking to the salespeople to buying the holiday, that these values and purpose of the holiday that they're booking are clearly communicated. This, in a sense, also fulfills the customer right of information, which is part of the human rights. It is our responsibility to communicate clearly to our business partners what we do, how we do it, and the value that this information has in being shared to the customers. On the ground, the role of the guides is very important, and Sara was talking about it as well. And it's an important part of the customer journey and cross-cultural understanding. This is a moment when the values are shared through the experience. Our guides, the guides who work in Olyastra, the guides who work all over Italy, are our ambassadors. They are they're in the middle between the culture of origin, where the customers come from, and that of the areas being visited, interacting with both customers, but also the stakeholders. So other than making sure that our guides are qualified and they get a fair pay, they don't work long hours, and extending their working opportunities outside of their main season, we invest time and set aside and budget for training our guides we work with. So they are prepared not only in all the hard skills, but also all the soft skills necessary to care for customers and the relationships within the value chain, our stakeholders and our suppliers. Obviously, there's lots of things that we don't support. Okay, we don't support. We don't partake in outdoor activities that compete with local land, rivers and sea use that can impact communities, like over-tourism, mass tourism. We work, for example, in Sardinia, we don't work in the summer months because it's already very busy and very crowded, and there's a lot of stress in tourism anyway. So our groups tend to be very small groups, from 8 to 12 people. We work with small infrastructures. We don't partake in outdoor sports that damage the environment or can abuse the land rights. We don't use international chain hotels. We don't use Airbnbs, which are very damaging, damaging drastically the communities in historical centers like Venice, like Matera, like Florence, and places like this. So there are certain things that we don't partake in. Part of our choices is not to accept them. Now this photo, I took this photo only a few weeks ago, actually, and on one of my rides here in Sardinia. The word that you see, turismo uguale sfruttamento, is painted on a wall on the west coast, and it translates as tourism equals employment. This is expressing a very strong sentiment that runs in Sardinia, which is connected to seasonal tourism and what Sara has been talking about. So what can we do as a small business to change this? This is one of our challenges. I don't feel that we directly are cause of this sentiment because of the choices that we make, working out of season and all the things that we talked about. But we are responsible, so what can we do? We believe that a challenge is also an opportunity. So as DMCs and service providers, we are kind of in a fragile middle position in between service providers, stakeholders, tour operators, shareholders, and also the marketplace. As we grow our product and business, the challenge is how to ensure that our service providers in the value chain respect the human rights values. What checks can we put in place that also don't question also the value of trust between us? How can we stay coherent and not succumb to the pressure to meet unrealistic requests and price reductions by passing pressure onto our trusted local stakeholders, creating a chain reaction that can affect the relationship, their choices in managing their businesses, which could affect staff salaries, staff hours, working hours, changes also to the local culture and traditions. So it's very much about staying coherent. This is why it's important that the business we work with are coherent. and their values and missions to integrate human rights and responsible travel values into the corporate culture and management, doing the actions that are necessary, and that there is a way of analyzing and monitoring these aspects, feeding back to the whole supply chain. Sharing these processes is an opportunity for local DMCs to engage, also to monitor and feedback, allowing a multi-way communication. We strongly believe that engaging and communicating these values we've been talking about can contribute to change. So why does it make business sense to respect human rights? We believe because it's a shift from shareholder focus, profit-making focus, to stakeholder focus. It's rethinking about how to grow a business while communicating both purpose and strategy, value and strategy. So by focusing more on the long-term value, the community value, thinking about the impacts rights, workers' rights, land rights, and environmental rights as well, as being part of also the strategy. As Katharina mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we are part of a number of networks. In particular, we're part of Active Italy, which is a network of Italian tour operators, and our mission is based on sustainable and responsible principles. And we meet and work together supporting other local NGOs, such as Legambiente, for example. We take part in government initiatives and address issues of land rights, accessibility rights, because it's very close to what we do. We think that networking and being part of a community of like-minded people is important for mutual support and learning, and highly encourage other, people like ourselves working in the sector of grouping together in networkers and sharing experiences. On a more local level, Lisa, Gavino and I engage with our stakeholders. We are part of a community called Sardegna Insieme. They're hotel owners, business owners, guides, and we come together to share our experiences, to discuss issues and support each other in finding solutions. So this is, I'll stop sharing my screen now, and I hope my presentation has been, hold on a second. Okay, there you go. So I hope our presentation has given a picture about how we live our businesses in Italy and Sardinia.
Thank you so much, Naomi. I'm actually a little bit speechless about everything that you said. It is so impressive what you're doing, and I think it is indeed a good practice example that shows that even if you are rather small fish in the sea, it's not only depending on big budgets and big people power in order to be able to be a force for change. And that is so encouraging, I hope, for the people who are joining us today to see that these changes are possible, and that it's so much what I especially liked, the connections that you have with your stakeholders, that really is key. And I think we already spoke about that in our prep call as well, that is also an indicator, like during the whole COVID pandemic, whenever you have like very strong relationships with your suppliers, this is what makes you resilient. This is what brings you through difficult times. If you have suppliers that you trust and suppliers who trust you, and then are okay with saying, okay, I trust you enough in order to say, maybe I don't receive my salary this month, but I'll trust you that it'll get better. So I'm really, really impressed. And I would like to ask a question from the audience, and that is from Nicoletta. Do do you somehow measure the impact you have on local communities, or do you conduct any kind of research or do you assess it just along stay in touch with your suppliers? And do you think this makes a change?
Yeah, so we engage in communication and conversations with all our stakeholders. So we work so close that we get information from them regarding their business approach, etc. One of our opportunities, which is in one of those challenges, is that monitoring aspect. So, and in small businesses, it's having enough resources within your structure to be able to designate some time to kind of assess and monitor. And in principle, that is something that we would like to move towards, and it's very inspiring. And therefore, how do we do that? That's a challenging bit, really. It's how do we monitor, and how do we keep track of what happens all throughout the ramification of all our supply chain.
Yeah, I know this is one of the biggest challenges. And even though we have another comment that I would like to mention later on, I think this is a good moment where I would jump in again and very, very briefly introduce a tool to you that actually helps exactly with what Naomi just mentioned. So with assessing the impacts. So for that, I'll quickly share my screen, and don't worry, we'll have time again to discuss the questions. So let's have a quick look again at the tourism value chain. We actually have the situation, and I mentioned that before, that tourism itself has a very positive image, and there is very little public awareness of human rights violations. We have a low consumer awareness, and we also have a very little regulated economic sector. We have weak legislations. I mean, that might change with the EU Supply Chain Act that where there was a draft yesterday, but that's or at the moment still future talking. But yeah, weak legislation and enforcement of human rights protection at the national level. And so there is no sanction for companies and no access for victims to grievance mechanisms. And of course, we have a very complex value chain. So we have the situation that actually the customer comes to the product and not the product to the customer. And that brings up a number of potential human rights threats. And Naomi already listed so many of them in the context of Italy, which again shows this is not a problem of the global south. It is a problem that can occur in every business activity. And I think that is very, very important to see again. As in, so what to do about it? I know that all of this whole topic can seem like a deterrent, especially for small and medium-sized tour operators who don't have, as we mentioned before, like huge financial resources or a lot of people power. So what the Roundtable developed is the so-called Get Started tool. And it's your way to identify business-related human rights risks and appropriate measures. The amount of potential human rights risks and the impacts of a business can be so overwhelming, as we said. So where and how to start? So we have developed this online tool, and it especially helps small and medium-sized outbound tour operators and tourism companies to actually identify their business and human rights related risks. And it's very simple. It's based on this value chain approach, and it just gives like very a clear overview of human rights related risks in tourism and shows various examples of real cases. And it offers a very pragmatic guidance on how to define priorities and how to find suitable measures. And it's referring to best practices, templates, and further resources, and it's available for the public to use. So all of you can use that. And I'll just showcase that for a second. So if you just click on that Get Started icon, and then you click on Analyze Risks. And here we are within the value chain. And here you click on the certain item. So let's, for the moment, just choose accommodation and then lodging. So here are the different human rights risks mentioned, and they also are flagged. So for the severity of the risk. And as we talked so much about that today, let's for the moment choose modern slavery. And you can either like select the different risks for your business in order to have kind of a shopping basket with your several risks, or you can just click through and then, for example, click on the Learn More button. And here you will have a number of resources. So for example, here we also have an example from Europe, which is threat of modern slavery in hotels in Europe. And there you find different articles, different links with real cases. And you have this Take Action section. We can click on that for a second to see how that looks. So you have already selected a measure, and here you get different ideas on how to tackle this issue. And again, same principle, you can select either the issue, or you can click on Learn More and then just read through the tool, read through different possibilities on how to take action. I'll leave it with that. That was just a very, very quick insight into our tool. But I think that mentioned exactly what Naomi was just talking about. And that also brings me to a comment that I've seen before. One of the things that I came up in a conversation regarding the issue was like, it's like this everywhere. You just have to suck it up and do the best you can. I had the feeling some tourism employees think talking about human rights in Europe is overstretched. How can you begin to change the mindset of workers? I'll start with beginning to answer that question. What we always do, the first thing is about raising awareness. People have to be aware of the rights, and companies also have to be aware of the due diligence that they have for their employers, for everybody along in their value chain. So raising the awareness, knowing your rights is the first and most essential step, I think, in order to change the mindset, and having best practice examples that actually showcase that a change is possible. So that in a nutshell would be my answer, but I love to bring Naomi and Sara in here today and see how they would answer that question.
So so the due diligence is an important part of the business model, isn't it? And so I think that's a very important, that's the responsibility side of things on behalf of the company. And that's why in my presentation, in our presentation, there was a lot of focus on company values and the mission. Because if there's that element as a core, that's really our starting point. And then everything that is done from that heart, every decision that is made on a company basis is then perpetuated throughout. And I think that includes communication with all the parties involved.
Sara, would you like to add something to that question?
No, I want only to say one thing if I can, because one thing is that 2 weeks ago, the European Commission has introduced a new law to check the situation in the structures, if all is okay, or are the problems inside the holidays structure. Yes, there are a law, and we must check if it's all okay. Also the employer, also all the tourists, the tour operator. It's very important. This is very important. Absolutely.
I totally agree with you, and I would even go one step further and saying, actually, it doesn't matter if there is a law or not. Of course, it matters, like from the side where you can actually like go to a court and ask for that law. But as Naomi mentioned before, it actually shouldn't matter if there is a law or not, because it makes business sense to respect human rights. I really love that point that Naomi actually mentioned when she said it's about shifting from shareholder to stakeholder focus. I think that is something that is very often neglected. It's something that we also very often face, that if we talk about stakeholders, we think about maybe the hotel manager, or we think about the tour operator, but we do not so much think about the people who are also tourism stakeholders, such as local guides, local taxi driver, or people who work in hotels to, for example, clean them. These are very, very important stakeholders, maybe the even more important stakeholders, because they are on the ground, they are in the destination, and it is our obligation to take care that their rights are respected, and that should be independent of a law. But if you are interested more in that case, our last year's symposium was actually exactly tackling that issue. That was when the German Supply Chain Act was more or less brand new. And we discussed like the pros and cons of the law and what it actually means for the tourism industry within our symposium last year. If you're interested in that, just check out our YouTube channel. You'll find the symposium there. I'll just look at the chat very quickly. Please let us know if there are any questions left. I'll give you 1 or 2 moments to think about that. In the meantime, before all of us are leaving us, we actually always prepare a very short survey. It just takes about 1 or 2 minutes, and it's absolutely anonymous. And we would love if you could fill that out. We'll post the link in the chat right now, and that always helps us a lot in order to prepare new topics and in order to see what went good and what we can do better. So I would highly appreciate if you could fill out that survey. And as I do not see any open questions from the audience, I'll use the last minutes to sincerely thank the two of you for taking the time. I know bringing up an extra topic into your daily work isn't always easy, but all of us are working for the greater good here, and I'm always so impressed how dedicated our speakers are, how much time they take to engage with us, and how much they support us. So Sara, Naomi, from the bottom of my heart, a sincere thank you also from the Roundtable, from all of our participants. We've seen in the chat function a lot of positive comments, people that are absolutely impressed by what you said. And we are always in the middle of the journey. This will never be over, but we'll keep on working. And yeah, I don't know if you would like to add anything, but from my side, there is just a big thank you.
Thank you, Katharina. It was a great pleasure for me to make part today, really. Thank you. And I hope we can see us in Sardinia or in Germany.
Yeah, same for me. Thank you very much for inviting us to this presentation. As I said at the beginning, if this helps to people understand better and implement some changes to their businesses, then everything said is good value.
I couldn't agree more. That's a perfect last sentence. So let's leave it with that. Thank you all participants. Look, check out our website, check out the YouTube channel, and check out Naomi's company and Sara's trade union in order to drive for change, not only in Italy, but everywhere. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.